Make 20.
Okay, so today I'm going to teach you how to make lactobacillus serum, which we will then use to bokashi with instead of composting. So you'll need extremely clean equipment, and I usually brew in my 3-gallon glass carboy, but it is still working on a batch, so I'm going to show you how to do this in a quart leftover glass juice jar. You can use plastic if you want, but I'm a plastic avoider, so I'm going to show you with glass. And then I'm going to use this airlock. These are really cheap. You can get one for under $2 at Stan's Mary Mart, and you'll need a bung that fits your jug, and also about $1. So we're gonna use organic brown rice. It's important it's organic, and it's important it's brown because the lactobacillus is actually on the outside of the rice, and that's what we're gonna culture. We're gonna feed it sugar, and then we're gonna use non-iodized salt to keep it all good and to keep bad bacteria from brewing. And I use pink Himalayan salt, but you could also use non-iodized sea salt or land salt. And so here we go. A funnel is helpful. We're going to zero out our scale and put in 94 grams of organic brown rice. And we're going to put in 29 grams of sugar. And 10 grams of salt. Okay, now I'm going to fill my jug up, not to the top. I'm going to leave some headroom for it to expand. I just use tap water, and I let it sit out to let all the chlorine escape. And then I'm going to shake it really good. You want to shake it a lot. That's going to knock loose the lactobacillus off the outside of your brown rice. And once a day, you're going to shake your jug. So don't lose your cat. If you don't want to shake your jug, you can inoculate it with a probiotic tab. And that'll give you a certain strain of lactobacillus if you want. But this brew is just going to be the wild occurring lactobacillus that's on the outside of the rice. And that's all there is to it. So I'll put my airlock in there nice and snug. I'm going to fill it to with water to the max line. Stick the cap on there to keep bugs out. And just work it down into that hole. Now if you want to let this sit somewhere warm, you can make a cozy environment for, like I do. I have a heating pad in here, and it's held up with some styrofoam, and then I use this sweater as a little cozy, and this lives in my living room. This will keep your lactobacillus at the ideal temperature. And I have the heating pad that just stays on all the time. This one doesn't shut off. You want to make sure that if you do this, you don't you don't you make sure that it doesn't heat so much that you cook your bacteria. You want to have it at a nice temperature that doesn't reach over 104 degrees. So, or 110 would be too much. So if you don't want to use a heating pad, you can just put it somewhere warm in the house. It's just going to take a lot longer. When I use the heating pad and the sweater cozy, this will be done in a week. Whereas if I just have it out on the counter, it might take 2 to 3 weeks to finish. So you know it's finished when the bubbles stop. And then you can give it a little taste. And if it tastes sweet, it's not quite done. And this one is pretty good. It's tart, but it's still a little sweet, so I'm gonna let it keep brewing. And you can test it with pH strip paper, and you want it to be at a 3. So you can see that we're really pretty close, but it still has just a little bit more to go on that batch. So once your lactobacillus is done and it's all finished, you can add it to equal weights brown sugar by weight. So you just stick your jug on here, pour your lactobacillus in, zero out your scale, and add the equal amount of brown sugar, and that will make your serum shelf stable for a year. And so this is what I use to inoculate my bokashi with. So let's get to making bokashi. I'm going to show you how to set up a bucket. You'll need at least 2 buckets, depends on how much compost you make. You can use a smaller bucket, but you need to have an airtight seal on the lid. That's really important. You can even use Tupperware if you need to keep it small so it doesn't get too heavy. So if you look at a bunch of bokashi videos, most of them stress the importance of having a screen in the bottom and draining out the liquid every day, but that's a lot of work and I don't like to hassle with that. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a couple inches of these Nature's Bedding mini pine flakes. This is super cheap. It's $6 for a giant bag of it. It'll last a really long time. So I'm going to put 2 to 3 inches of pine bedding flakes in the bottom of my bucket. That way I don't have to worry about draining off the liquid from the bokashi. Okay, here we go. We got some pine flakes in there. And now I'm going to empty my compost just once a day. I don't want to open up my bucket because we want to keep this seam anaerobic. So here's my day's compost. I'm just going to dump that into the bucket. And then I'm going to scoop a few more pine flakes into my compost bin. And I'm going to add just a little bit of my lactobacillus. This is going to inoculate my compost, and I'm basically going to pickle my compost. So I put a little bit of sauce in there. I'm going to give it a little shake. And I'm going to just pour it on top of my compost, food scraps, and use the bucket to tamp it down. I want to push all the air out because I want to keep it nice and anaerobic. And that's all I do. Empty the compost like that, and then once my bucket's full, I'm going to let it sit inside for 2 weeks. in the winter, I let it sit inside for 2 weeks. In the summer, when it's not freezing outside, I keep my bokashi bins outside. But in the winter, they stay inside for 2 weeks until I dump them out in the garden. So that's all you need to do to bokashi. And I'll show you, once it's pickled and fermented after 2 weeks, I'll show you how to put that out into your garden.